The LFFL Primetime, the fastest 5 minutes in the LFFL universe. We have one theme for today's show, and that is points, because there was a whole lot of points scored last week. Let's start with the original league. We had Todd beating Eric in a high scoring affair, Josh over Matt, another high scoring affair. Miles beat Phil, Bill beat Andy, and I was able to beat Greg. Looking at your standings, got Miles and Josh at 4-1 leading the way. Andy, myself, and Greg all at 3-2. Matt, Bill, Todd at 2-3, with Eric and Phil in last at 1-4. Week 6, we got a fun matchup of Josh versus Bill. This is tied 17-17 overall. However, Josh has won the last 3. Bill actually hasn't beaten Josh since 2017. We have Miles taking on Eric. Eric with the 2-0 lead early on in this series. Greg taking on Todd. Todd has a commanding 21-9 lead in the series. However, Greg won the most important game they played when they played way back in Super Bowl IX in 2003. This is right after we went to 10 teams. A fun Super Bowl, an 18-point win for Greg there. Matt taking on Phil. Phil with a 38-23 lead over Matt. Interesting enough, these two have never played in a Super Bowl against each other. Strange to think of, since they were two of the more dominant forces in the 90s, that they never hooked up in a Super Bowl. But hey, maybe this is the year. Maybe they get turned around starting today. Andy versus myself. Andy with the 14-12 lead over me in the series. Of course, this is a rematch of Super Bowl number 17. Looking at the Keeper League, Eric put up 96 points in his win this week, flirted with triple digits, which has only been done 12 times in the history of the league. He has to settle for a top 20 score with 96 in the win. Andy beats Todd. Phil beats Sean. Merrill's beat Greg. I beat Bill. Your standings, Eric and Sean at 4-1. Andy, Greg, Bill at 3-2. Myself, the Merrills, Phil, and Miles all at 2-3, with Todd at 0-5. This week, got Eric taking on Todd, Bill taking on Greg, Andy taking on Phil, Miles versus the Merrills, and Sean versus myself. LFFL 5, more points being scored over here. Miles wins a big game with a huge score, 146-130 over Matt Merrill, to give him sole possession of the lead. Todd beats Bill, Matt Brennan beats Sean, Nate beats Phil, Andy beats Eric, and Greg was able to beat me. Miles, as I said, sits alone at 5-0, 2 games clear in that bye-week race. Matt, Andy, Phil, Eric, Todd, Matt, Brennan all sit at 3-2. Bill and myself are at 2-3. Greg, Sean, and Nate all 1-4. This week, got Miles taking on Sean, Todd taking on Phil. Battle of the Mats going on. Andy versus Greg, Bill versus Nate, and Eric versus myself. Congratulations are in order to Eric Warner, win number 10 of his career in the Daily Fantasy League, tying Phil for third most all time. Was a great, exciting, actually, a 4 o'clock round. Myself, Eric, Bill, Andy, all really in the mix. Greg was down, but coming back. It was a fun week. Eric took the lead at about halftime of those 4 o'clock games, never relented. He kept that lead kind of consistent the rest of the day. I was able to come in second. Bill held off Andy by 1 point for the bronze medal this week. I'm in first, Andy in second, Bill in third. LFFL 5, Greg, 276 points this week, second highest score in history, behind Bill's 285 last season. Bill also won this week. Todd, Nate, myself were winners. Standings, Bill 5-0, Eric 4-1, Greg, myself, Todd at 3-2, Andy, Phil, Miles at 2-3, Nate at 1-4, Sean at 0-5 this week. Got Bill taking on Miles, Eric taking on Greg, Andy, Phil, Todd, Sean, and Nate versus myself. LFFL 6, we have a new leader over here. Greg jumps up into first place in this league, but again, story here, points scored. Phil sets a season high with 189 in the February league. His 189 is the 7th best score in the history of this league. Greg sets a new 14-team record since it's the first year we played 14 teams, 185.2 in the May league. LFFL 7, Phil joins the departed over here this week's elimination. Andy continues to maintain the lead in that league. Phil, huge week. Last week, Greg posted 207.6 to set a new standard in the LFFL 8. Phil had to do one better this week, 278.9. Awesome week by Phil, jumped all the way from 6th to 1st. Bill drops down to 2nd, Eric in 3rd. In the Knockout League, your Sweet 16, 3-week semifinals, week 1 down, Phil, number 1 seed Phil, winning over Matt Brennan. Number 8 seed Casey winning over Matt. Number 5 seed Todd is actually down to number 12 seed Nate. We know the 5-12, big upset line. Jeremy, number 13 seed, threatened to upseat the number 4 seed Bill. Eric beating Bill in the 3-14 matchup. Andy beating Eric in the 6-11 matchup. Todd threatening to upset Greg in the 10-7 matchup. And Matt absolutely destroying Greg down here in the 2-15 matchup. After a regular season high score of 258.6 points, we had 2 teams crush that number. Matt Merrill and Eric, both top 275. Very impressive. Your player of the year. We have Andy continues to maintain his spot here. Greg maintains 2nd place like it was last week. I'm in 3rd. It's a close race right now, though. Andy's kind of come back to the field, as you would expect a little bit. So, awesome week. Good luck in week number 6.